Hello, my name is Peter Bricks. I'm a debtor bankruptcy attorney in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, I'm here to talk to you today about reaffirmation agreements in Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Before I get started, I just want to read a little brief disclaimer. We are a debt relief agency proudly assisting consumers in filing bankruptcy. However, there is no attorney-client relationship with the viewer of this message unless there is a fee agreement. Your situation is unique to you, and we would need to consult with you individually before we could offer you applicable and accurate legal advice. This information should only be used for educational purposes. Now, when I said at the beginning as reaffirmations, I mentioned it was for Chapter 7s only. Chapter 13 is not a reaffirmation chapter. You can surrender your items in a Chapter 13, your car, your house, those secured items. However, that is different than reaffirmation, and most of you who are in Chapter 13 are probably in there to keep those items. So that's not really where you're going with that. Chapter 7 reaffirmations. The best place to get started is let's start with your real estate. What you reaffirm is you reaffirm secured debt. That's almost always just real estate and your car note. You treat real estate and car notes differently. Let's start with real estate. Real estate, start with probably the most common myth, which is you have to reaffirm your mortgage note to keep your home. That is, as a general rule, not true. What keeps you in your home is paying your mortgage. That is true as a general rule whether or not you reaffirm or not. The bank is happy to accept your check whether you reaffirm or not. They still have a lien on your house whether you reaffirm or not. They probably don't want to exercise that lien if you reaffirm. If you don't reaffirm but you keep paying. Are there situations to reaffirm a mortgage? Yeah, maybe. Maybe you have equity in a home, but usually you don't in a Chapter 7. But maybe you have equity in your home, maybe you're current on the payments, you can maintain and be current. You realize that might be an opportunity to rebuild your credit. So those are all reasons you could consider reaffirming. It's not, as a general rule, that you don't reaffirm, but generally if you have negative equity, it's probably not a good idea to reaffirm your mortgage. If you want to stay in the home and you're behind on your mortgage, you need to get caught up if you're in a Chapter 7. If you're current in a Chapter 7 on your mortgage but there's negative equity, you very well might want to consider the, quote, stay and pay scenario. It's not an officially recognized part of the bankruptcy code, but that basically means if you continue to pay on your mortgage, you will stay in the home regardless of whether you did not reaffirm or not. The bank will be happy to continue collecting your checks, and you'll be current even though technically there will no longer be a note. It will have discharged in bankruptcy. The advantage of not reaffirming is missed payments after bankruptcy don't hurt your credit further. If you miss enough payments and the bank repossesses the house through what's called a foreclosure, it doesn't appear on your credit. Additionally, you don't have to worry about being sued for a deficiency. And the mortgage is often your largest debt. So you would go through bankruptcy and reaffirm your largest debt. Those are all reasons to very strongly consider not reaffirming a mortgage in bankruptcy. A car note's different. Car note's not real property, it's personal property. The laws are a little more kind to creditors in the bankruptcy code because it's personal property. So there are situations where you can be current, not reaffirm, and still lose your car. That's going to depend somewhat on your state law, whether a creditor can repossess your car under state law, because you will lose the protections under the bankruptcy law by not reaffirming, and the creditor can repossess the collateral. Additionally, not to get overly technical, but a creditor can take your car back quicker in a Chapter 7 than a house without a reaffirmation. That's because personal property, you get an automatic stay when you file. That expires in your case at some point. To personal property, it never expires as to real property. The bank has to make a proactive step to repossess or foreclose your house because it's real property in the Chapter 7 through lifting the automatic stay. There are scenarios where when your stay expires, the car company can repossess your vehicle even without having ever done what's called a motion for automatic relief from stay. So that's why houses and cars are treated differently, but the bottom line is you really want to strongly consider not reaffirming when you have negative equity in the items. Cars, you can be a little bit more adventurous reaffirming because you need a car definitely to get to work. And a lot of times your interest rate might be a lot lower on that car note you brought into the bankruptcy than what you can get after the bankruptcy. So even though there is some negative equity, your car note's not that bad. And a car note's a smaller debt, so you're not risking, a much deeper lawsuit for defaulting on a mortgage. Like you would for defaulting on a mortgage when you default on a car note. Yes, there might be a deficiency, but might be a much smaller amount. So bottom line, tread carefully when you're considering a reaffirmation in Chapter 7 bankruptcy.